Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I'm here for the main reason for my trip, my Q&A with Nick Bear. You guys know that I've been a big fan of BPN, Bear Performance Nutrition, for a long time. I've been using Flight, basically as pre-workout, intra-workout for a while, and I've gotten to know Nick for the past almost a year. I guess pretty much all of 2016, and he was active duty, or still is active duty Army here at Fort Hood, Texas. And as you all know, I'm prior service, so I was in the Army from 03 to 09. I got out as an E6 staff sergeant, and that was just an immediate kind of connection for us to kind of talk about stuff. So he does the YouTube, I do the YouTube, he's active duty, I'm prior service. So through getting to know him this year, we kind of just put together this meetup here for Veterans Day weekend 2016. And we did a Q&A, he put up a Q&A on his Instagram. So we're just gonna go through, knock out some of the questions. The main premise was to kind of get some guidance from what it is being Army officer and Army enlisted, and I'm sure we've got a bunch of random stuff thrown in there.
Yeah, there's a bunch of randoms.
People get creative with the questions, so I'm gonna have Nick go through and we'll just knock it out.
How has life in the military translated into the civilian world as far as leadership qualities, initiative, etc.?
I think segueing from that last question of just letting people who are in leadership positions, let them lead, let them manage. It has been really different for me because now that I am in the corporate management, corporate leadership world, I don't really get to always just pull rank, so to speak. So, for me, I was a staff sergeant, and sometimes people just do what you say, and that's really all the justification you need to give them because of that rank. And in the military world, you get away with that a little bit more than out here in the corporate world. You have to kind of fluff things up a little bit, be a little bit more politically correct, and be a little more cognizant of what you're doing and how you're doing it, what you're saying, how you're saying it. So it's not as black and white, I would say.
Yeah, I would say we had this conversation the other night too, over a few beers. We were talking about how people automatically assume, say you're infantry, 11 Bravo enlisted, there's no translation in the civilian sector. That's absolutely incorrect. You won't be using your day-to-day job duties and responsibilities in the infantry as you would in the civilian sector, but ultimately, in the military, you're managing people and time, and that's what you do in the civilian sector as well. In management and business, learning how to motivate, inspire, and lead people in whatever organization that is, it'll translate, and a lot of people don't understand that.
Yeah.
For leadership experience, what is the better route, enlisted or officer? How do leadership roles differ from each other in each position? I'll take that one first.
Yeah, you go ahead.
So in terms of, say, leadership, if you go officer route, you're going to be put in a position of leadership faster than you would if you went enlisted. If you go enlisted, you work your way up to the NCO rank, which can take anywhere from 3 to 5 years. I mean, how fast were you NCO?
Yeah, I didn't make Sergeant E5 until right about almost my 4-year mark. Yeah. So,
and then there are two different types of responsibility. I mean, as an NCO, when you become a team leader as an E5, you're responsible for 3 to 5 guys. As an officer, you're in charge of a platoon, but it's different responsibilities. So NCOs are trainers. They're in the dirt training their guys all the times. Officers are more oversight, refinement. So I'd say it's two different levels of leadership. To tell you the truth, if I could do it all over again, and 100% honest, my dream job would be a squad leader. I would love to have gone enlisted infantry and been a squad leader, because I think just training with the guys is the most fun. It's the best part of the job.
And that was what I did for a period of my time as a squad leader. So once you make a certain rank, honestly, even some E4 is more like in a corporal setting. Mm-hmm. But as an E5 sergeant, you become a squad leader, and then as E6 you become a platoon sergeant. So I would correlate it to kind of, I guess, in the corporate world, in the civilian world, starting at in the mailroom of a company, and then working your way, to a mailroom, to a front desk clerk, to an assistant, kind of working your way up, and then you kind of work with everyone, see everyone, and then become a leader through, going from the bottom to the top, and then having someone just come in as a new CEO or a new COO or someone who's in senior leadership. That would be kind of what an officer does. Mm-hmm. So they kind of just come in and they just, direct mandate from the top down, and then rely on the people who have kind of come through the ranks to follow through the orders, carry it out, and just make sure that the rest of the guys and the girls, whoever's on your team, just understands the reasoning behind the directive.
Yeah, that's a good one. Pros and cons for NCO versus officer. So I'd say like a pro right from the start is going to be, I mean, it depends on what rank within the NCO Corps, but as an officer, I mean, you have to have a 4-year bachelor's degree to be an officer. So you have to go to college. There's different routes to become an officer. You have to go to your officer basic course, but you're going to start getting paid with, in terms of, say, in relation to years in service. So like an officer with 1 year in service is going to get paid a lot more than a private with 1 year in service. So pro is going to be, I'd say, pay. It's going to be responsibility. You have more responsibility, which is a pro right from the start.
Yeah.
And I'd say you have more flexibility. As bad as I want to say it, I mean, it's the truth. As an officer, you have more flexibility.
You're starting off a little bit, higher in the food chain. So yeah, of course.
So it's not as like, you're not getting yelled at all the time as an officer as you would as a private. Con, let's see, con, I would say, I mean, it's the truth that privates and soldiers and enlisted NCOs, I'd say it's definitely a lot stronger of a bond than it is in the officer corps. That's from my observation. It's just like, it's the brotherhood, and in the military it's all brotherhood, but I say from the enlisted side, they're a lot closer.
Yeah,
I would say that.
Yeah, and again, it's just because they all kind of started at the same place usually and progressed together. So I would definitely probably echo pretty much everything that he said. If you're looking at it as far as a direction or a directive, if I'm interested in going into the military, do I want to go enlisted, do I want to go officer? I would say really look at your past experiences and where you are at that specific point in time and why you're looking at the military. Are you coming from a lot of leadership experience, corporate background, or just being really secure in yourself, honestly, as a leader? Or are you someone who is just looking for a fresh start, very young, don't really have a lot of experience really doing anything? And lack of experience isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's recognizing where you are in life. So I think if you're coming from a place of a lot of experience, going officer route makes more sense. If you're coming from just being young out of school or just starting really at the bottom, and that's okay, like I said, just working your way up from the bottom is fine. Yeah,
it's kind of like where you're starting and then where you see yourself ending is kind of a good way to put into perspective if you want to go officer or NCO route.
And you can always start enlisted and go officer. So if you get in and you really enjoy your job, if you enjoy leading people and want to become a little bit more management level, you can always go like green to gold packages. You can go to officer candidate school, so you can become and get your commission. You become an officer and get your commission.
All right, what was the most mentally challenging evolution of training while you were in the military?
I mean, just going back to basic, for me, it was just knowing that physically, most of the time, they're not going to give you anything that's just going to completely break you. It is just the mental aspects. I would say just sharpening my mental fortitude from boot camp to all the other like special trainings and schools and stuff that I did, and just always being in the mentality of I'm in the military. There's a huge mental toughening aspect.
Yeah. So for me, as an officer, you don't have to go to basic. You'll go ROTC or your commissioning source in your basic course, and then I went to Ranger School. I'd say Ranger School was probably the most challenging physically and mentally for me, because it's a 61-day course and I spent like 120 days there because I recycled 2 phases. But I would say, like, and you haven't touched on it, but you went to DLI too.
Oh yeah.
So I'd say for you that's probably the most challenging.
Yeah, my job, my MOS took almost a year of training, and it was 100% total immersion language training. So day one, you're having someone in a foreign language talk to you, yell at you. So I walk into class, have this angry Russian grandma yelling at me about God knows what, but that's just the way that they build you in your job. So they don't waste any of their time, and they don't expect you to waste any of their time.
And what's challenging for one person might not necessarily be challenging for another. So it's in perspective to the individual. And I always talk about this. Like for me, like a language course would be absolutely brutal. Like I'm just not really good with that stuff. But if it's like physical stuff, I'll embrace a lot of suck, and I can be fine at the end. But there's certain things that I can do and I cannot do. And I think what's challenging is just dependent on the individual.
Yeah, if you can embrace the suck, which is a really common phrase in the military, just learn to embrace the suck and just get through it. Yeah.
What's the relationship like between an NCO and an officer? So like going back to me being a PL right now, I work like directly with NCOs. So I work with an E7, a sergeant first class is my platoon sergeant, and we're like best friends. We've been in the same platoon together for almost a year and a half now, and we're on a really good relationship basis where we're open with each other and we can talk because we're working like almost 24/7 with each other on different things. And then I have squad leaders who I go directly to disseminate information. They work with their squads, and then team leaders who are E5s work for the staff sergeants and the squad leaders. So it's just like in the corporate world, they say like you should never be directly responsible for more than I think like 3 or 4 people, and that's how the military structure works. Like you're responsible for a select few people, and those people are responsible for more people, and then it trickles its way down. So there's organization and structure.
Yeah, it just comes down to trust, relationship building. The rest will take care of itself.
All right, here's one specifically that I'll answer that I get touched on a lot. So, as for someone seeking to commission active duty, combat arms in the Army as an officer, is ROTC any better or worse than like West Point or like a military academy?
That's cool.
Things like that. I've worked with like people from West Point, people that have commissioned through ROTC, OCS, green and gold, everything. And I mean, there's not one that's better than the other. I mean, some different commissioning sources might have better opportunities, like schools and learning experiences than the others. But at the end of the day, when you get to do your job, you'll realize who actually is good at their job and who isn't. And to tell you the truth, like commissioning source, I haven't seen make any difference at all. I mean, I'm sure like you've probably heard like people like talk crap on West Pointers and stuff, and like I mean, there's hate on both sides, and it's like anywhere else. But at the end of the day, it's one person is trying to do a job, and you learn that job by doing that job. Like, there's no great officer or great NCO that's going to learn it without being an officer and NCO. You learn everything in the military by doing that job.
I kind of compare it to people who go to like a certain college, or maybe they go to like a community college or a state level or an Ivy League. Anyone who goes to that school within that same group is always going to be like, oh yeah, like we went to the same college, we're the best, But at the end of the day, once you get into the corporate world and you do your job, it honestly really doesn't matter that much whether you got your degree from a community college, Ivy League, or a state school or whatever. It's just everyone goes through the similar process and then is there to do the job, and it's really just a matter of how well you can do that job.
If it wasn't for the Army, what wouldn't you have learned? So pretty much, what did you gain from joining the military? And I get this question a lot, and I touch on this question a lot, and like I don't know, or I don't think I'd be like where I am right now, opening a gym, owning a supplement company in and around Austin, if I never joined the military. I'd probably still be back in Pennsylvania, working maybe a 9 to 5. But I think I've gained so much from leadership experience and learning from people that have done the job wrong, like we were talking about earlier. You learn from people's mistakes and failures rather than their successes more times than none. So I contribute a lot of my successes and the things that I've learned to the military.
Yeah, and for me, it's kind of a tough one because I came from a military family, so a lot of like the Army and military core values, leadership, duty, respect, self-service, honor, were all things that I grew up with. So my dad, he was an 11 Bravo in the 101st Airborne. So and then before him, my uncle was a Marine, my grandfather was in the Army. So I kind of grew up in that environment, already just being aware of, hey, this is right and this is wrong, and this is just what you do. But I will say that I think being in the military showed me to try to be a little bit more of the world, because being in the military, you will meet people, work with, travel to, see people from all walks of life. People who come from great corporate jobs, or people coming out of high school, or really you never know from where they're coming, and you never know where you're going to go and meet. So I really think that just getting in the world and out of my own bubble was probably the biggest takeaway that I got. It kind of just showed me what else was out there other than just Chase's world.
Yeah, I can touch on that. Like, I just got back from Korea.
Yeah. I
was there for 9 months. I got there back less than a month ago, about 3.5 weeks ago. And just learning different cultures and their values and being embedded into their society as a guest was definitely something like a learning experience and something to take away from. But yeah, I don't think if I never joined the military, I would have learned a lot of the things about leadership and management if I wanted to have joined. All right, so what does good leadership look like?
To me, a good leader, specifically referring to my time in the military, was someone who was not afraid to do the job with me, who could show me. So it's really different. I'm sure anyone can relate, getting a mandate, a directive, an order, or being told to do something by someone who you know would never themselves actually do that task. I had a lot of great experiences with my squad leaders, my platoon sergeants, people who could tell, even though I'm new and green, but they could recognize that they too were once new and green at that same time. So having someone who is willing to get down in the trenches, literally sometimes in the trenches with you, and show you how to do things, what right looks like, so that you can do it on your own next time. Just anyone who could do themselves what they were asking of me, I thought really made a great leader.
I'd say, I mean, when I talk about like good leadership, I have like two people in mind that I'm trying to describe right now. And I'd say like, if you know, just for me, like, I don't have to double think like this guy's a good leader or this guy's not a good leader. You just like, you know right off the bat if he makes the right decisions. But for me being like a PL, the leaders above me, like company commanders, battalion commanders, it's people that have instilled trust into me to do my job and let me mess up, and then mentor me and counsel me and teach me what I've done wrong and how to fix that. It's not necessarily like there's loudership and then there's leadership. I like that expression because there's people that will yell at you for messing up and expect you to do better the next time, and there's people that will yell at you for messing up, but then they'll pull you into the office and they'll talk to you like a man and like, this is what you did wrong and this is what you could do to fix it. This is how you better yourself, and
give you those learning experiences. You know, what are my areas of sustainment, areas for improvement, which I can't believe I'm saying, which is, it's after anything you do in the military, it's okay, what did we do right, areas for sustainment, what did we do wrong, areas for improvement. So no matter what, even if you think that you are doing everything right and you're not hearing any negative feedback, there can always be something you can improve upon. So always ask, you know, whether it's your most entry-level private or your most trusted squad leader, platoon sergeant, you know, always be looking for that feedback, and I think that correlates into life as well. So your best friends, your family, hey guys, what am I doing that I could improve myself on? You know, how could I be a better friend? How could I be a better son, father, husband, whatever? Just always look for that feedback and always try to self-educate and self-improve.
Yeah, I don't want to go down like a rabbit hole with this one, but for me, it always left a more like impact, not necessarily like when my peers or leaders would tell me like, hey, you're doing a good job, like, you know, pat on the back. But when like subordinates would walk up to you and be like, you know, this really helped me, or this motivated me, or this really inspired me, that's where it's like you realize you left an impact on someone, whether how small or big it is. That like it makes everything worth it at that point.
So I think that's going to wrap up the Q&A. Thank you guys so much for leaving all the awesome questions on Nick's Instagram. I'm going to leave all of his contact information in the comments below. So I've had an awesome Veterans Day weekend. It's been a really cool experience. You know, I've been out now for about 6 years. Wow, getting old. Yeah, I was in 03 to 09, and I've been out now for I think longer than I was in. So, and Nick is now finishing up his contract. He is getting out in 2017 soon. And I couldn't have thought of a better way. So that's going to do it, everyone, for the Q&A from the enlisted side and the commissioned side. Thank you guys so much for all the great questions. We had a lot more questions that we didn't get to. Honestly, I think Nick and I could have talked for hours about his experience and my experience in the military, again, from the enlisted NCO side and the commissioned officer side. It's been a great time down here in Texas. Couldn't have asked for a better Veterans Day weekend. So we'll see you guys in the next video.